This meeting is being recorded.
All right, what's up, everybody? It's Jay LaValle, Joe Wrestling, and tonight I have some special guests from Buffalo, New York. I'm down here in Washington, D.C., and I have Latifah McBryde with us. How you doing, Latifah?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. And I have Latifah's dad, Mustafa. How you doing, Mustafa?
Very well, sir. Yourself?
Doing well. Doing well. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This may be, I don't know, maybe the 5th or 6th episode I've done. I haven't done one in a while, but obviously your story has piqued my interest, and I want to be able to share it with you. And so I really appreciate your time and coming on and sharing your story. Thank you so much.
We appreciate you giving us some time. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand, Latifah, you recently was a finalist in the U20 USA Wrestling National event. You also have mixed martial arts background. Tell us a little bit about, how you got into wrestling, how you got into some of these other disciplines that may also help you in wrestling. I've seen some of your throws. They're pretty nasty.
So my dad wrestled in high school and then in college. And then my brother started to get into wrestling. Me and my sisters were just at the gym while he was in practice. And then we just slowly started to get into the practices, participate. So that's how we got into wrestling. And then for the other sports, they started holding jiu-jitsu classes at the academy that we were at, Cobra Wrestling Academy. So we just decided, why not jump in? We're already there. So we started jiu-jitsu. And a little while after that, I started Judo, followed by Muay Thai at Buffalo United Martial Arts. So it's pretty extensive.
Wow, in what age did all these things start?
I started wrestling when I was 5. And then a few months later, after I started wrestling, I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then for the Judo and Muay Thai, that was around 6 years ago. So I was 11.
Wow. And the one thing when I watched you wrestle, I saw the Judo influence more than anything out of all of it. Is that one of your favorite styles? It seems like you gravitate towards throwing people.
To be honest, I just don't like shooting. I really like throws. I don't train that much Judo, but I really like them. I feel like I'm shorter too, so I feel like I'm able to get a little bit more leverage when I'm doing throws. So that's why I think I gravitate towards them more, just because I feel like they fit my game pretty well.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I sort of got into Judo a little bit a few years ago, and I felt like even with Greco-Roman throwing, it gave me confidence in my leg. Even though I wasn't very good at the time in my leg attack, I felt like the throws gave me more confidence to actually attack legs, because now I have options to wrestle somebody upper body, and now I have more confidence to wrestle, if that makes sense. It was an interesting dynamic. And Mustafa, you're kind of guiding her, or is this all her wanting to try all these different things? Were you her coach?
I'm her coach. I coach her with wrestling. We have a coach for Judo, but we'll drill Judo throws, and I've done some Judo as well. But everything's geared towards wrestling. Even our jiu-jitsu is geared towards wrestling. So we kind of take an approach that we want to wind up on top, whether it's jiu-jitsu or not. We're not guard pullers. And the wrestling mindset, where we're pressuring an individual, really opens up the throws, and then subsequently actually opens up leg attacks as well. She hasn't really done a whole lot of them, the leg attacks, but she's been relatively successful with just pressuring, forcing people to wrestle. And our biggest, I think I think something that really indicates what she's about is when you watch her style is the pressure. She forces people to wrestle, and we test your conditioning, and we want to see who keep up with us. That's what she wants. Keep up with her, and eventually you see that people just kind of wilt under that constant pressure. Club, underhook, pressure, fake, snap, front headlock. You know, that's kind of what we're doing. You know, that's the style, and we use that whether it's jiu-jitsu. Obviously can't do any leg attacks in judo, but when you hit the ground, the newaza in judo, we wrestle there.
Right.
So
That's a great philosophy. I sort of adopt the same thing for my athletes, and you know, if you can impose your will and your skill on somebody, and they start wiltering, it absolutely 100% starts to open up opportunities, or the retreat. And then legs just start being there, throws start being there. And that's great. You kind of sort of let those disciplines all mesh together for wrestling specifically.
right, absolutely. And coaches need to be aware of that. There's a whole crop of kids coming out who are training jiu-jitsu and wrestling that have a completely different feel, a different flow, a different flavor. And if you're as a wrestler in America right now, if you're not doing both, you're going to get left behind, meaning both jiu-jitsu and wrestling.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, I got to brush up on my jiu-jitsu for 100%. I haven't done any jiu-jitsu. Well, maybe a little bit. I got choked out a few times, and I was like, no, I'll stick to wrestling. But it's humbling. It's humbling. It's definitely humbling for sure.
Absolutely. Different mindset.
Yeah, it's definitely different.
Different mindset. Wrestling's about control.
100%.
Jiu-jitsu is about finishing.
Yep, 100%. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, you know, where you were, you know, maybe last year, and where you are now in your sort of maybe your training, some of the results you got. You know, we were coming out of 2020 COVID, you know, things being canceled. Maybe a little bit about, you know, what you were doing last year versus this year, because you said you were a finalist in Texas, and I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, so last year, in terms of our training, it's stayed the same in terms of like consistency and style. We started implementing different types of conditioning movements and stuff. I think that's had a big factor in my performance. But in terms of training, comparing last year to this year, we actually don't really get to train that often. So it's me and my two other sisters, Zana and Jamila. And before COVID, we were actually training wrestling up at Brock University with Marty Calder, Tanya Rabik. They were allowing us up in the room to train. They have a great room, especially.
It's in Canada.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's nice.
So they have a great room. And I felt like I was really starting to grow as a wrestler, as an athlete. And then obviously COVID hit. So we weren't able to train up there. So we came back, we started just working out by ourselves. And this year, kind of the same thing. We don't have many females in Western New York to wrestle with. If we do, it's just a few of us. So me and my sisters, and then we have a couple girls that are interested in wrestling. But
it's not very extensive here in Western New York. For the most part, what you're seeing happening, if you watch any of her matches, this is primarily the training we do here and her sisters. Wow. We don't have anyone. We're not part of a club. Additionally, as being Muslim, she never trains with guys. She never touches any guy. Yep, doesn't wrestle with them, doesn't do jiu-jitsu with them. What we're doing is strictly females.
I see.
So we're limited in that. So what you're seeing is a limited situation, much like the other gentleman you interviewed. We're making it happen anyway.
Yeah, and I think that's That's very respectable that you're able to make it all work. And sort of, I always say in anything in life, or in especially wrestling, like you got to make the most out of what you have. Everybody's not the fastest, everybody's not the strongest. You might not even have a training partner, and you make the most of it. But it's you, Mustafa, you wrestled, so you understand a lot of it. So you can sort of, you're kind of the person who's sort of guiding the ship per se, right? You're able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, like I feed off her energy. And the more energy she puts into it, the more that I'll try to do for her in relation to it. But definitely, I love wrestling because it has this element where an individual is judged for their performance, and all other things can at some point be put to the side.
Yeah.
And subsequently, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
So the light went off. Subsequently, she's really taken to it, and she understands some of the concepts that I try to bring forth. Having a brother who's wrestling at a high level, who's coaching at a Division I level, who wrestled at the world level, is inspirational for her. But at the strike of COVID, one thing I realized right off the bat was the real monsters in anything didn't let COVID stop them.
Nope.
No, those of us who make excuses, it was perfect. It was the perfect excuse. Oh, I can't do this. I can't do that. So what we began to do was we just have an open lot, and I began to just bring tractor tires and old weights. I put my truck on the lot with a tow rope, and we're sledgehammers, tire flipping, weight throwing, truck pulling.
Pushing.
Pushing,
Got
and
creative, yeah.
We get grimy with it, and thanks be to God, they're buying in now. They're seeing that when they go to these tournaments, and they're seeing girls who come from clubs that wrestled throughout COVID, girls that wrestle 5-6 days a week, girls that wrestle with guys, and have plenty of training partners, and we're still hammering anyway.
Right.
They buy in. Right, they buy in more when I say, "Come on, you got to run like 20 minutes today." All right, oh, yep, let's go. So it's good. It's good to have them buy in so fully.
Yeah, nothing is better than good old fashioned hard work. All the bells and whistles sometimes get in the way of our vision of where we want to go, because it's like, well, we have to do this because everybody else is doing it, but it's not true. You find a way to get it done, even if you have nothing. And
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think wrestlers in particular can be the most creative, because you really don't need a whole lot.
No,
you really
don't. Right, you don't. And conditioning is the one weapon that we have control over.
100%.
I don't know a lot. I don't know a lot about wrestling. I'm not an encyclopedia. I don't know every move or every counter. But I know you slam someone on their neck and watch all their strength or their tricks or technique. Watch it go out the window when they can't breathe.
Yeah.
And that's the philosophy we try to kind of embody. And she does it. She does well with this philosophy of smash wrestling.
I like that style. I like it. It's aggressive, and well, that's what wrestling is. We call it, our sport is wrestling, and the act of wrestling, we're not backing away from somebody, but that's what happens a lot of times. People start backing away, and they're not actually wrestling back. So that's awesome that you take that philosophy and bring it to your competitions.
Yeah,
So
I'm not very fast, so it helps me.
You like that style though, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I could tell. The throws are, I think, the most impressive, and they're the most exciting. Like you said, Mustafa, like, we're judged based on our performance, whether we win or whether we lose. The performance is number one. Somebody who gives 100% and is pushing and is trying to actually compete and still loses, that goes a long way. You know, somebody who understands a sport or just a casual spectator is going to understand, you know, the effort that somebody puts out like that, you know. So.
And we get a lot of support from real wrestlers, like real people who've wrestled. They recognize what's going on. You know, in the beginning, people's mindsets were kind of funny, and you know, they never saw like Muslim girls, you know, the way we show up to tournaments in these long dresses and our head cover looking like Mother Mary, you know, and then all of a sudden they see the wrestling that we do, and they're like, oh, okay.
He can wrestle.
Yeah, he's just a wrestler. and respect. We get respect. And that's all we want.
Right.
We want respect. You know,
100%.
I don't think originally the intention was that, you know, in allowing us to wrestle, there'd be any thought of us doing anything. And now that we're here, now it's a question.
Yeah.
Now it's a, well, you know, what do we do? You know, we secured permission a year ago to wrestle in this fashion, to be dressed in this fashion to wrestle. We never just showed up. We spoke with USA Wrestling. USA Wrestling last year reached out to UWW, got it all clear. We wrestled. We didn't win. We didn't make it to the finals.
Sure.
We placed, right? This
you
year,
were able to get to the line with your attire. Now let me back up a little bit. You're starting to bring up an important topic here. You were Muslim American, and in your belief, you know, what is your belief? I should ask you, what is your belief here while you're actually wrestling? Number one, you do not compete with boys. You do not train with boys. That's one, right?
Yeah, so as a Muslim woman, you're not allowed to have contact with guys that aren't your relatives. So your direct relatives, like I can wrestle with my dad, I can wrestle with my brother. But beyond that, you're not supposed to.
Sure.
Oh God.
The way we practice this now, people oftentimes take this as some sort of value judgment against others. It's not. This is what we're choosing to do.
Sure.
It is a direct aspect of our religion, like being covered. Like if there's one thing you know about Muslim women, when you see them, they're covered, right? That's not news, right? So because that's the case, you know, that's important to make clear. That's what we do. That's what we're doing. We're not making a value judgment on anyone else. At the same time, we don't expect that people to say, well, why can't you do what they're doing?
Right.
You know, to us.
Right. 100%.
So to build off of that, that's I guess you could say it was important to say that first so you can understand why we need to be covered. So to be able to touch and interact with a woman is a privilege, and it's something that she decides who gets to interact with her with. And that goes the same way with her beauty, and her beauty goes to her hair, her form. So for us, we have to make sure that we're protecting ourselves and protecting our beauty because it's part of the religion. So when we cover, we're covering for ourselves. And that's what I feel like it gives me. It gives me an advantage to say that people are judging me for me. They're judging me for my intellect, my skill, my ability. So that's a positive thing that comes from that. I know a lot of people view us as, you know, they're made to wear that stuff, you know, they're made to cover and with their headscarf and everything, but
they're oppressed.
It's not. It's a choice. It's my choice, and I choose to dress like that.
It's your personal choice, and people should respect that. You know, just hearing you speak about these things. You know, I didn't know 100%. I have Muslim friends, and I've never asked them, but to hear you say that and to make it clear that it's your personal choice, people should respect that. I respect that. So I appreciate you sharing that.
And also, you know, it's some of the blame of it not being out there, like people not being aware, is that basically what's happened is that Muslims react to situations not just like this, but in other situations as well, where we either concede or we don't participate. So the ones who never participate, you never know about what our rulings are in terms of how we're supposed to behave, because they figure they'll never accept what we're doing, and we can't make that happen anyway. So we're just not going to we'll go do something else. And then the Muslims who do get involved, where they say, well, I really want to, because we were asked this, well, aren't there other Muslim women who wrestle? Yeah, at the Olympic level. Yeah, there are. But they do what they do. And the idea is they've conceded. Again,
Sure.
Muslim women covering is not a new idea. I'm sure for yourself or for any of your viewers,
Right.
it's not like, what, Muslim women have to cover? There was someone took a picture at the tournament down in Texas, and one of my daughters, their shirt got pulled out and came up over her head, and people were saying stuff like, "Oh, look at that, that's dangerous," and this, that, and the other, and I kind of made light of it, and I said, well, that's our secret burqa move, right? Because where we give 2 points to our opponent, right? So when I make that joke, people laugh, right? Because everyone knows Muslim women cover, varying levels of covering, but clearly Muslim women cover. So again, it's our fault, and we're putting it out there that no, we're here, we cover, we practice our religion,
Right.
And we can wrestle,
Right.
and we can wrestle.
I don't think it's your fault for having a certain belief or a certain choice that relates to your religion at all. It's what you choose to do in your personal belief, like many people choose to do, and they don't have, I guess, the same type of judgment because it's not visible, and so this issue arose after you became the U20 finalist, correct? You became the U20 finalist, 72 kilos. Congratulations on that. That's really impressive, because you were 4th place last year, correct?
Yes.
And so you made the finals, and you were the only person to score on this girl also. So that's pretty impressive as well. And so being a finalist qualified you for what?
For the Pan Am's, Pan American Championships in Mexico.
That's excellent. I mentioned earlier, one of my athletes also qualified for Pan Am's at the same weight class, but the men's at 72 kilograms in Greco. So he's excited to go, and listening and hearing about the experiences that you're having. I can't even imagine if something had happened to him as well like this. I couldn't even imagine. So share a little bit about your story, how this became an issue.
So after she won, after she made it to the finals rather, and took second, we were informed that as a second place member, you get to go to Mexico for the Pan Am's. We didn't know second place did anything or went anywhere. We knew first place.
Or allowed to go to the training camp or anything. I didn't know any of this.
Yeah,
came with getting second. So
we didn't know, and I don't think it would have changed much if we did. So we found out, and we got real excited, like, wow, this is crazy, this is amazing, like, wow, she's getting the opportunity to go do this. And so we came back to Buffalo, and a few days later, about 5 days later, we got a call saying that she's not going to be permitted to wrestle unless she abides by the international wrestling rules and wears a singlet. And at that point, we're like, well, okay, well, let's give us some time and then we'll talk about it. But she was a bit distraught. about it. And, you know, I was very upset at first. And so we just started mobilizing and trying to, like, you know, gain support and trying to change this, because apparently we were being told it was coming from UWW. But we had checked with UWW last year.
Yeah, you said a year ago you had kind of cleared it, that this was appropriate for competition and in UWW competition, which if it's appropriate in UWW, then it's most likely going to be appropriate at the national level.
Right. So let's clarify this just to make it clear, so that people don't think we're like being purposely ambiguous. But the idea was that we actually found that there was a style of wrestling called classic wrestling in Iran, where the women dress in the way you see my daughters dress. So when I went and tried to look this up, the classic wrestling, I went and looked up the rules, and it was freestyle. It was just to accommodate the Muslim women of Iran. Head covering, baggier shirts, long pants, spandex underneath, headgear to hold the headpiece on. And all the other rules were the same, with the exception of dress and time. In classic wrestling, there's only one period of 3 minutes, not two periods, three minutes apiece. But on push out, stall, you know, passivity, you know, take the throws, scoring, all of it's pins. It's freestyle wrestling.
Sure.
So I was like, wow, okay, well, we don't have classic wrestling here, and women are wrestling this way. And I wrestled in high school. I wrestled in college, Division I. I mean, we wore sweatpants, sweatshirts, hoodies tied up. Like, I'm like, you know, right? Like, I'm like, okay, well, I do jujitsu as well with a gi, kimono, and no gi.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I'm like, this is. I think we should be able to do this. Yeah. So I was kind of pushed by some local coaches to actually get them involved at the tournament level, because I never thought that they would ever be given the opportunity. You know, I'm very thankful to USA Wrestling for you know, actually making this opportunity available to my daughters. The coaches here in Western New York had to push me to go. They saw them wrestle each other, and they're like, Mustafa, man, you gotta let your daughters wrestle, man. And I'm like, Coach Keith, I'm telling you, I don't think they're gonna let this is just gonna be a headache, man. They'll never let, you know, some Muslim girls with head coverings come. And they're like, no, man, you got to do it. You got to, you know. So they pushed and they kind of gassed me up, and I started pushing and asking questions. And eventually USA Wrestling reached out to UWW last year. Went back and forth. First, they sent an international PDF, which talked about certain dress that wouldn't work for us, like spandex, like tight form-fitting spandex. And we're like, no, we're not, we don't do that.
Right.
But this classic wrestling style, we will do. And then they said that to us, and, you know, we spoke back and forth. Cody Bickley up at USA Wrestling and communicating with UWW. You know, so he's like, okay, well, he said, Mustafa, if you can ensure your daughters will dress like this, that the way the Iranian women do for classic wrestling, you've got the green light. Butter.
Yeah.
Well,
it makes sense if that's part of classic wrestling, which is exactly like freestyle wrestling. It makes 100% sense.
So we got the approval last year, wrestled, did well, came back this year. She took second. My other daughter took third at the U17s. And, you know, we thought, okay, we're good, you know, we're good. And then we kind of like blindsided with this, almost as though we had never spoken to UWW, almost as though we had never spoken to USA Wrestling, like almost like we just kind of showed up.
Right.
And no one knew what the hell we were doing. Like, no, I would not travel from Buffalo to Texas and just say, we're here, let us wrestle, you know. So it blindsided us, you know. And now we're at a point now where, you know, Mr. Bender from USA Wrestling actually has petitioned the executive of USA Wrestling Americas, who's running the Pan American Games, Mr. Lee Lopez, to just give her an exemption
Sure.
to wrestle, and he said no. I'm going to wait for UWW to go through whatever their process is. UWW, we're waiting on UWW now to let us know what they already kind of let us know a year ago, that we can wrestle, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be here now. We wouldn't, and let's be clear, the only reason we're even having this conversation is because she took second.
Right, 100%.
Right? That's really what it is.
Right.
Had she not have taken second, I'm sorry?
Yeah, and I wanted to ask Latifah, how does the situation make you feel? Do you feel discouraged by it, or does it give you more encouragement to speak up about it, to bring more awareness? Like, I feel like it could be a negative side, but I think it could be flipped to a positive thing.
Yeah, especially at the beginning, I was quite upset. I feel like I kind of bottled it up a little bit. But I feel like I was really able to use that during even just training on my own. It definitely helps fuel me during workouts and stuff. Again, it was really disappointing. Like I put in a lot of work, whether it's working out on my own, shadow wrestling, shadow drilling, footwork drills, watching hours of wrestling, studying on my own, taking notes, all of it. Just to put in all of this work just for someone to say no purely because of an outfit or a uniform, it just seems ridiculous. And then also, for me to come from,
you're a woman. You're a woman in a male-dominated sport as well.
Yeah, and then you'd think women's wrestling is on the rise, and they're trying to say they're all about building or growing women's wrestling. But if they were really about growing women's wrestling, they'd be taking advantage of this opportunity. There are a ton of Muslim women and other women who just want to dress modestly that would do wrestling or do jiu-jitsu or whatever other sport if they could dress modestly. And we would have a lot more women in wrestling if they just allowed us to dress modestly. And that's the way it should be. We shouldn't have to sacrifice, whether it's religion, whether it's just our personal morals, for a sport. And also for an organization as large as UWW is, to ask me to give up my religion to wrestle.
Your personal beliefs.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up. So I tend to have a negative view on a lot of things. So I was just trying to use this just as another setback, just like an injury, anything like that sort of setback, just to push me forward, make me a better person, make me a better wrestler, make me a better Muslim, better daughter, better sister, whatever it is, so that they can try to push me out of the sport as much as they want. They can try to push me away from my religion as much as they want. They don't realize that this is just making me better at all of those things. Okay, maybe I can't go to Mexico. That just means I have more time to wrestle and grow my wrestling, and grow my game. So for them to push me away from that, well, guess what? I'm just gonna come back better. So there's that, and then they gave me an opportunity to speak up. I'm very, very grateful for this opportunity to speak on this problem that we have, not even just in wrestling, but in all sports, whether it's volleyball, swimming, gymnastics, that women can, not even just women, but all athletes can participate in sports modestly. And through this issue, I'm realizing being able to speak up, it's like, it's invigorating, and I really like it. Like, I've always wanted to make an impact on the world, and this is my opportunity, so I'm trying to take advantage of it.
I'm not trying to make no impact on the world. I just want my daughter to wrestle.
I do just want to wrestle, but it's nice
You're
to
being impactful and you just want to wrestle.
Yeah, I'm not trying to change the world, bro. Like, let's have people calm down a bit, right? Although I do think what she said is important, and I think it's evident, right? Women are rebelling against this ideal of objectification of women,
right?
That they're not being observed for their ability to produce in that sport, but they're being marketed like meat.
Right.
Hey, don't get mad at me. I didn't say this. This is what they're saying, and I agree with them.
Right.
And it's not only women too, like, especially for wrestling, like, men don't like wearing singlets either.
There's some men.
So, they really don't.
There might be some men that enjoy wearing a singlet or whatever, but at the same time, there are probably more men that don't like wearing it. So it's kind of like sports are starting to objectify the athletes and use them to promote the sport, to promote their organization, for them to be able to post the pictures of them in the singlet, super ripped after cutting weight, super vascular or whatever, for them to just make them into like a poster or whatever. Like, I find that.
And I think it's traditionalists that stick with the whole singlet thing. Like, I hated the singlet wrestling in high school and college. I couldn't stand it, but I love wrestling. So, but it's evident now that with the switching over to the two-piece uniforms that they're doing in high schools, that, I know a coach here locally in Western New York who's told me he doesn't have enough to go around. Participation just exploded once kids found out, both boys and girls, I can come wrestle, but I don't have to wear that singlet thing. I can wear fight shorts and a rash guard top. Oh, I'm in. And if we're true, wrestling needs to get out of its own way. Yeah. Wrestling needs to get out of its own way. I mean, we're not the only ones. There's some other Muslim girls out there who are probably some bangers, but just haven't been given the opportunity yet, and I'm not going to wear a singlet.
Right. They're not going to.
Right. And now with this, I'll give you a story. We went to the Phil Portus. It was a Fargo qualifier about 2 years back. And guy comes up to me, Northeast Regional, right? A guy comes up to me and he says, "So your daughters don't wrestle with any guys?" I was like, "No." He goes, "Never?" I said, "Never." And he goes, "They dress like that every time they wrestle?" And this is a white American guy. I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "And they got that good just by wrestling with each other and other women?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, it's my son and myself and each other, her sisters." He goes, "I was not a fan of, my daughter's wrestling. These are rather intimate positions that they're in with guys." He said, "But if my daughters would be willing to do what your daughters are doing in terms of only wrestling guys and covering up a bit, only wrestling with girls and covering up a bit, we're going to do this." So there was a change of mindset there by knowing all of a sudden there's a potential, there's something different. We can do something different. Like, people don't want to ask.
Right.
People don't know.
Because it's in wrestling. I wrestled in the 90s, and it was, girls wrestling at the time in the 90s was few and far. They were wrestling, but it was still taboo. Now it's these things are starting to come out and to show that, look, girls can wrestle. They don't need to wrestle with the boys. Some still do, but they don't need to. In fact, girls that have the opportunity to only wrestle with girls are probably going to have more opportunities. My daughter's 6 years old. She started wrestling, and right now she's only wrestling, with other boys her age. It's 6, but I know down the road it's going to be different. There's going to be, I feel the same way. I'm like, there's some compromising positions that just shouldn't be in,
Right. And it's almost like you can't talk about that. It's almost like by mentioning it, like there's something wrong. Like,
right.
And as opposed to saying, well, maybe there's something wrong with guys and girls being in those positions together. Maybe there's something wrong with that. And I actually don't oftentimes say it, because I know that, first of all, being Muslim, I'm looked at as this sort of fundamentalist. Whenever you bring a religious perspective into something,
Right.
it changes the nature of the conversation. So you had these ladies in Europe who were playing volleyball who did not want to wear, these underwear, so to speak,
Yeah.
and said, no, we want to cover, we want to wear shorts or sweatpants or spandex, and then they were lauded. Oh, look at these girls and these men, right? But if a Muslim woman says that, if a Muslim woman says, I want to remain covered, I don't think I should. You're oppressed, you're this, you're that, it's your religion, you're brainwashed, all these sorts of weirdo sorts of thoughts. So
Right.
what I've learned is, coming from the perspective of being religious, that I oftentimes might not say anything. We just do what we do. But I clearly identify what's going on here. I don't care how it comes about. I don't care who delivers the message. Let's just get it done.
Right, exactly. So yeah, we want to make sure that you're able to wrestle at the
Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. So Latifah, we want to make sure you're able to wrestle at the Pan Am Championships in Mexico, and I believe is it Acapulco, Mexico? Or do you know where? I think it's someplace cool that you should be able to go to.
Right.
Now, there is a petition out right now. Did you start that petition?
No. So one of my older sisters, Amina, and her husband Hamid actually started that.
Okay.
I honestly didn't even know what to do. I was just kind of going along with the flow of things. So they started that, and then they're organizing it and everything. My dad was kind of dealing with all the lawyers and reaching out to USA Wrestling and UWW. I was just trying to stay focused on training and everything.
As you should.
So that was all Mina and Hamid. So
Okay. Yeah, I would love to, when we get the video up and live, I would love to drop the link in there. And then also you have some email addresses that you could share that people can actually be proactive as well and reach out to some of the leaders that can possibly make this happen. I also shared your link with some people, and they've reached out to me showing support for you. And actually one of my friends their friend is also Muslim, and she was infuriated to hear this as well. But so they wrote some supportive comments on that page. So hopefully you'll be able to go back and see that. But I would absolutely love to share that link, and number one with your story here, but also with that petition as well.
We sorted the number of countries that people have come through and signed on that petition, and it's approaching 100 countries.
Wow.
100 different people from 100 different countries sign that petition. So UWW really needs to look at this. We're not just here alone.
Right.
Trying to do this. You may be able to involve entire countries that have not sent women's teams.
Right.
Or only sent one or two ladies, to world competitions. But when people find out that, hey, I can do this, our women can do that, or I as a woman can do it this way, I think you may find that there's going to be a lot more participation. And isn't that what we want? Inclusivity? Isn't that what we're shooting for?
100%.
Right.
Wrestling is one of those sports where it's pretty much all inclusive, but you would think that it wouldn't be based off of skin color, race, ethnicity, religion, or sex, one of those things.
National origin. Yeah, and this goes against Olympianism, right? Olympianism is this ideal that everyone should have the right to compete, and they shouldn't be subject to someone's measure of moral conduct, right? It's kind of wild sometimes when we talk to some wrestlers who are totally against my daughter's wrestling, saying, almost like the singlet is like from God, right? It's like biblical or something. No, thou shalt wear a singlet, right? Nah, like, I don't understand like where this comes from, and they're not my moral standard. We have a different moral standard,
right,
and it's not,
and it's not based off of wrestling. It's your personal choice in your religion, which is important to you, which is really important to you.
No doubt, absolutely. But thanks, definitely if you could share that link and to the petition and the emails, and email president of UWW, Slalovic, and Mr. Bender and Cody Bickley, and thank them, and continue to encourage them to support us as members of USA Wrestling and citizens of the United States. Definitely would help us unquestionably.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story and your incredible background, how you even got started in wrestling. I think it's the greatest sport on earth, and
no doubt. Also, one other thing, so people, all my children are homeschooled.
Oh, nice.
So when we say we have competition, like in New York State, when you're a homeschooler, you're not allowed to participate in interscholastic activities. So it wasn't even like they could wrestle coming through high school.
I see.
Right. So we have very, very limited matches, because we're not allowed to play as homeschoolers. So, this is a big thing for us. This means a lot. Like, really means a lot.
There's few things on your competition calendar.
Right.
And this
Absolutely.
is a big opportunity for you. Yeah, I congratulate you making. I mean, this is a national team. You made a USA Wrestling national team.
Can never be taken away from her.
Nope, exactly. And I really love the things that you shared with us, Latifah, about having a voice, being able to stand up for yourself. I think that's, out of all this, is so important, in that you're able to really take this thing that you felt maybe resentful about or just discouraged, and just turn it into something positive, so you become a better person overall. And I think that's the best way to respond. Do you have any words of encouragement or advice for other women, men, athletes, anybody who feels discouraged and they're not included, to get a voice like you, to have courage?
I would say two things. Stand by your beliefs. Stand for who you are. I am a Muslim. That's the first thing I say I am. Above being African American, above being a wrestler, I am a Muslim. So stand by who you are. And I think the second thing is do everything that you're in control of that can make you a better athlete, can make you a better person, a better Muslim, whatever it is. So whether it's, extra conditioning on your own, extra, watching film, studying the sport. So I'd say those two things: stand by who you are and put in the work and do what you can.
That's great advice, especially that last piece, control what you can control. And especially in this situation, you some things we can't control. We can try and help push people in the right direction to make the right decision, and we will try and do that for you. And I really appreciate your time. And anything else you want to share with us?
Just thank you for having us on here. Thank you for letting me have a voice. I wouldn't have been able to do the podcast without you.
You're welcome, anytime.
And then also, thank you to everyone who signed it, shared it.
Thanks for all the supporters, no doubt.
Supporters.
Yep.
Me and my family couldn't have, had 1,000 signatures just by ourselves. So for everyone sharing it and supporting us, it really means a lot to me. like I said, wrestling is a really big part of my life. The sports, you know, it has my heart. I love wrestling. So for you guys to help support me and reach my dreams and goals, I really, truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. And we will be watching for you in the future, hopefully in Mexico in July, right? Early July. Hope to see you down there.
Yep.
And
Amen.
we'll do everything we can to share your story, especially here with this video. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Hope you guys have a great night.
You too.
You too.